I'm in Singapore to talk about the transition from fundamentally an energy sector that's based on coal, legacy coal, to renewables, large-scale renewables. What is it going to take to get the capital necessary to drive that forward? What are the obstacles? What are the incentives to make it go forward? What's the implication of public policy? How do we get moving forward in this very challenging transition from an old legacy supply to the new future? So the question is, how do you have a market to make new investments when you're already over capacity without giving great subsidies in the market for the new, cleaner technology? I think one of the challenges that we have when we're talking about this transition is that we're introducing a lot of new risks which are not normal in the market. And what are they? Well, there's a question very quickly of technological performance and obsolescence. I mean, we're building things that we don't really know how long they'll last and how they'll perform. When we talk about large-scale batteries, their performance and how they'll cycle, nobody knows that. So there's a whole technological element of risk that has to be borne by someone. So people have to understand, we're not getting out of the coal business, but we are getting out of the CO2 business. I don't know if it's going to be a single energy system, nor do I know that it's important that it is. I think one of the challenges is that we know the direction where technology is taking us, all right? There's nothing fundamentally right or wrong or first principles about it. As technology gets smaller, as it gets cheaper, as it gets cleaner, as it gets more efficient, being closer to you consume it where you produce it, that's where it should be heading. I think technology takes us there. I think it'll never be one or the other, it'll always be a mix. I think the other thing that we don't talk about a lot, and that is this whole question that I think we're becoming much more sensitive to, which is sort of the cybersecurity element of it. The further that generation is away from load, the more opportunity is for cyber threat to get involved in interrupting supply. There are people who say, well, you know, large systems with large amount of renewables are less reliable than the old. Not necessarily, all right? They can be equally reliable or equally unreliable. One of the things that we do know for a fact that it is much more secure to produce and consume it at one place and not have to transport it over large distances with a lot of power equipment in between. We talk about disruption, and I think the last panel talked about disruption. This is disruption. It's the technology has changed and it disrupts the way we think. Well, our virtual power plant, it's a very exciting project. You know, our view is that we're going to see the growing deployment of solar voltaics on rooftops. In fact, in Australia, it's almost up to 1.5 million homes have solar installed on their roofs. And we had this idea that if we can bring all the solar roofs together and all the storage together, we can, in fact, create a virtual power plant by orchestrating them. That means managing them on behalf of the owners. They don't see any difference. They don't know when they're consuming it from their rooftop, when they're consuming it from their battery, when they're charging their battery, when they're sending energy back into the grid. But with 1,000 batteries and 1,000 homes with rooftops, we're creating essentially a 5 megawatt peaking power plant at the edge of the grid. And we believe that has great value. So in fact, you're creating a virtual power plant, but what's really exciting about this is we're bringing into the energy supply chain customers for the first time. They will be participants in their own futures. This is the project we have, which is 1,000 batteries in 1,000 homes in Adelaide, South Australia. It's the largest in the world today, but it's still a demonstration project. When this gets to scale, it won't be 1,000 batteries, it'll be 10,000 batteries, 20,000 batteries. And with the way we're seeing battery prices coming down and solar feed-in tariffs coming down as well, the market's going to be ripe for this to take off. Economics is sort of the science of scarcity. And as an engineering professor once told me, an engineer is a guy who can do for $1 what any fool can do for $2. So it was always about efficiency. I was always interested in energy based on that event of seeing what was going on in the world. I knew that energy would be an issue that we'd be dealing with for a long time and its impact. So when I was in undergraduate school, one of my engineering projects when I was a senior was building a thermal solar collector out of beer cans. So I've always been fascinated by energy, and my career's been in it ever since. And you know what? I would say from where I was when I was in undergraduate school to where I am now, we haven't progressed a lot. And now we have a chance to really make some very significant changes, and that's why I'm so excited to be able to be part of it. Anticipating the future is what it's about. It doesn't mean that we know what's going to happen, but if we can think through many different futures, the one that hits us is the one we'll be prepared for.